Wedding photographers, the COVID-19 crisis is causing a lot of disruption to everything we know to be normal in our industry. I'm going to share with you in this video 5 ways that you can show up in this crisis and not just survive, but actually thrive in the midst of the chaos. Hey everybody, I am Katelyn James. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm excited that you are here. This is a place where we empower photographers to become profitable and purposeful business owners while also letting people into the behind the scenes of our family life, our faith, our stories, and what we're up to when we're not working. So I'm excited about this video because this was not our normal scheduled programming. This is something that we decided to do last minute when everything in the world seemed to turn upside down. So as of last week, the coronavirus and this epidemic that is sweeping not just our nation, but the world has caused family life, businesses, everything about what is normal to us to turn upside down. And we are in a season where we're right there with you. If you're a wedding photographer, there are a lot of uncertainties happening right now. And so I want to start this video by just saying a few disclaimers. One, yes, we are educators, but we're also wedding photographers that shoot 10 to 12 $10,000 weddings per year. We are in the process of postponing several of those. And so even though, yes, we have different revenue streams, and I'm so thankful for that, a lot of the hard emails, the postponing, the cancellations, we are experiencing that same trauma to our business. We are still working through that with our clients. And I'm very grateful that I am still a wedding photographer that is doing weddings on a consistent monthly basis. And so I'm right there with all wedding photographers who are going through this. It is a struggle. And yes, we have other income sources, but we also have 5 employees that we provide decent salaries to and provide health insurance. And it's scary to know that the very way that we educate, that we're having to reevaluate how we're going to get that done this year. And so it's a season of uncertainty, but I'm excited because in this video, I'm going to share with you how we are choosing to thrive in the midst of the pain and the trauma, and how you can too. And I also wanted to just put a disclaimer out there that I am not going to be sharing legal advice with you, but I do want to link several resources below this video to friends of mine in the industry that have shared amazing advice on how to move forward with contract changes, addendums, cancellations, rescheduling, postponing, anything that you need to do to make sure that you are moving forward in a legally legit way. I'm going to be sharing those resources and link them below because it's not a good use of your time to hear me share that because I'm not a lawyer. But I do have 5 practical ways that I want to encourage you and empower you to walk through this season in a way where you can confidently say, yeah, that was hard. And I hated those months of 2020, but I did a good job running my business. I did a good job showing up for my family. And I chose to thrive in a season where most in the world are just trying to survive. Some people would say that that mentality of thriving versus surviving is not something that everyone has a choice about. And I want to say that that's not true. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But everybody, even when outcomes do not work out the way that we want, even when things don't happen in our favor, even when the worst case scenario happens to us, we still have a choice. We have a choice to choose whether or not pain transforms us or tears us apart. And I want to empower you and encourage you that we can choose to thrive, that that is an option for us. So there are 5 ways. The first way, P.S., before I get into this, I just want to say, yes, this is awful. And none of this is belittling anyone's pain because we have seen pain in our life. We know that it's not helpful to have someone say, oh, just suck it up and get through it. And that is not what I'm doing here. I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm legitimizing how hard this is. It is, no one would ever choose this, no one. But I'm giving you tools to show up in the midst of this horrible season in a powerful way. There are also little bits of beautiful things happening around us. Just this morning, I realized that John Legend, which I love him. I have an obsession with him. I think he's so talented. He did like an hour-long Insta story live and it was incredible. I just watched a whole thing. He's just amazing. The man behind the voice of Olaf, Josh Gad, is actually showing up and doing bedtime stories with his Olaf voice for children who are stuck at home. I mean, people are showing up and doing beautiful things in the world, and people are coming together. I saw this video of these musicians in Spain who were quarantined to their apartment, but going out on their balconies and making beautiful music for everyone who had their windows open. There's beauty to be found, and I'm excited to walk you through how we are choosing to see that and how we're choosing to thrive in the midst of the crisis. So first tip to thriving instead of just surviving is that I want to encourage you to create 3 different levels of community. So I mentioned this on a Facebook Live recently in our KJ Education Facebook group, which if you are a photographer and you're not in that group, it's available to anyone. And I'm actually doing weekly Facebook Lives. It's called Stay Apart, Learn Together with Katelyn James. I'm going to do these Facebook Lives to do Q&As, to share content from some of our courses, to empower photographers to show up differently in a season where other people are freaking out. Those weekly Facebook Lives can be found in the Facebook group link below. So make sure that you click that link and join it. You don't have to be a course student. You don't even have to be a KJ All Access member. It's for anyone. Okay, so that is linked below. But in that group, we talked about, in a Facebook Live recently, someone said, Katelyn, what happens if there is a situation where they are allowing smaller weddings to happen, and maybe I am supposed to shoot a wedding, but I do get this virus. Maybe I do get the coronavirus and I'm unable to even be in public, and other people do. What if this does spread? Like some people are worried that it will spread. What do I do? And everyone normally has someone who is a backup shooter for them. But my encouragement to them is to create kind of the largest community that you need to create in this crisis is an emergency pod. So in your area, creating a group of 10 to 15 local photographers who are all in agreement that they will show up for one another. You could create a Google spreadsheet, list out names, contact information, location, even share like some dates that you're not available, but just have a way to communicate with 10 to 15 photographers who are all in agreement to help each other. And this is different than just having a normal backup, because normally you can have 1 or 2 backups and it's no big deal, but in an epidemic of this size, it would be good to have an emergency pod that's a little bit bigger than normal. So that's my first level of community that I think you should create. The second level of community is a group of crisis companions. And so when I say crisis companions, I'm thinking 5 to 6 people. I mean, I made this up, so there's no rules, but 5 to 6 people who are committed to being your community during this time. And the reason why I am really passionate about this is because I realized when I was going through my own text threads on my own phone, I realized that this is kind of a natural thing that's happening in my own life, and I really appreciate it. I'm an extrovert. I love people, and I'm not even able to see strangers or pass them by at the mall or go eat at Chipotle and sit next to another family with little kids and wave to them. Like, there's no social interaction, and it kind of eats away at you, and we're only a few days in. So my thought on this crisis companion, this group of 5 to 6 people who are committing to being that online community for one another, my thought is that in my own life, I have some group threads with 5 to 6 people. Maybe they're church friends, maybe they're photographers, but I found myself just talking in this group like I would have a conversation at the gym, because I'm not going to the gym, or having a conversation like I would after small group with other moms. I'm not going to small group right now. So forming these connections and these relationships and creating a crisis companion group is an amazing way to continue community, but you have to be intentional about it. And it could be that you already have people that would fit into this group. You just need to put a name to it and maybe ask people, hey, maybe we show up every week for each other and we do a group chat or a FaceTime group, or we do a Zoom call, or we do a Facebook Live and have a Facebook group, just the 5 to 6 of us. And this is going to be a way for us to connect and just hold each other accountable to not slip into a social depression. I don't struggle with mental illness, but I cannot imagine what this season is going to do to people who do. I can't imagine how hard it's going to be to maintain positive, healthy mental stability if that's an area that you struggle and yet you have no one to hold you accountable or to share your life with. So for me, I have several groups of friends that fit into this crisis companion category of community, and I'd encourage you to find this in your own life. And you may be wondering, Okay, Katelyn, that sounds easy, but making friends as an adult is actually really hard. And you are so right. Someone made a joke the other day that like Jesus did miracles, but the true miracle was that Jesus was a man in his 30s who had 12 best friends. Like that's really hard to do. That's a miracle, to be in your 30s, in your late 20s, in your early 20s, out of college and have 12 best friends. Like it's hard to make friends. So how do you find this crisis companion group of 5 to 6 people to share life with on a weekly basis? And here's some thoughts. One, pay attention to threads that you've engaged with in Facebook, on different Facebook groups. Who do you connect with? Who have you had conversations with? Who has been in a similar situation to you? This might be a good person to reach out to and consider making a group, starting a group with them. Share, maybe you need to get in some Facebook groups and share your unique situation. So maybe you have a spouse in the military. Maybe you have more than one kid at home. Maybe you have teenagers that are stuck at home and that puts you in an interesting category. Maybe you just had a baby. Maybe you're single. Maybe you just moved. Maybe your spouse is in a medical field and that is a whole nother realm of crazy right now. Start sharing more of your life and look for people who have similarities to you that can understand where you're coming from and form your crisis companion group, maybe through those interactions, and see if someone would be interested. I don't think it's weird or abnormal or awkward to share that someone, me, that is maybe someone who's offering advice, is telling you to create a crisis companion group where you can just, you don't even have to be friends before this. Like you could form this with strangers on the internet. That would be a beautiful thing to come out of this craziness. So form this crisis companion group. And my thought is that this would be a group that you check in with weekly, maybe bi-weekly. But it's a great group to hold you accountable and to help you stay positive, stay encouraged, and stay uplifted and have an outlet for social interaction. The third type of community to form is to strengthen the relationship with the person you trust the most. And so in my mind, this is being intentional with your best friend. Now, I understand that just simply having the desire and sharing some initiative is not going to create a best friend relationship with you instantly. Best friend relationships are formed over time through trust and sacrifice and intentionality and vulnerability and respect. That's not going to happen overnight. But there could be someone in your life already right now where you have the potential for that relationship, but you haven't had the time to make it happen. So you've had great conversations with this person and you text every now and then to check in, but you've never really had the time or the space to think, I should intentionally grow a relationship with this person. What a gift it would be if you could look back 5 years from now and realize that this season, in the midst of this chaos, this is the season when you realize that like, that's when I actually really dove into that friendship with that person. That's when I actually started to see some really cool, genuine interactions happen with this person. My best friend came from COVID-19 and the crisis we were in. Those are the type of things that I want people to start to realize, is that if we can change the dialogue and change the narrative of how awful this is, what if there are beautiful things that want to happen? We just have to be willing to see it and not stuck in our negative mindset, not stuck in the scarcity mindset and the doomsday mindset that the rest of the world is living in. We got to be willing to see something else. All right, so point number 2 is that productivity leads to purpose. I want you to first take a minute to think about how awful you feel when you have, this is what it looks like for me. You have a full day of work ahead of you. You have maybe babysitters for the kids. You have all this time to be productive and you get nothing done. You're distracted by this, distracted by that, and you get to the end of the day and nothing is marked off your to-do list. How frustrating that is. It is so frustrating. For me, there's not much else that makes me feel more defeated in a day of work than feeling like I got nothing done and I could have gotten so much done. So I want you to take that feeling of an unproductive day and times it by like 1,000. Imagine if you have a totally unproductive season during COVID-19 and you look back and you're like, this is literally a once in a lifetime chance to have no one expect anything of you. You can't do anything. You are at home. You don't have any shoots to go to. You've caught up on your editing. This is your chance, people. This is our chance. Someone who has a list of business things that they've wanted to get done for so long, this is our moment. But if we sit in this season And all we say to ourselves is, look at the money I've lost. Look at all the shoots I've canceled. I'm not going to survive this. There's no way I can rebound. There's no way I can come back from this. If that is the only narrative in your head, then that's the only narrative that's going to come to fruition. The way you manage what's in here, which that's coming up in a second, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the way that you manage what's up here is going to determine what comes out of you in this season. And I'm so passionate about this because I think that there are going to be business owners, not all of us, but there are going to be some business owners that look back at this season and they're going to say, that's when I became a legit business owner. That's when I grew in my confidence like no other season. That's when I fought for my business like I never have before. That's when I got my bridal guide done. That's when I got my website updated. That's when I got my email templates finalized. That is when I finally finished all of my courses that I've bought over the years. That's when I caught up on my KJ All Access episodes, especially the one this month, and I learned how to use Flash. What if, some of you who don't know how to use off-camera Flash, what if you left this COVID-19 season, started with your first wedding back at work, and mastered off-camera Flash because you had time at home to watch KJ All Access. You learned from watching in a real scenario. You practiced yourself. What if that was your reality? How amazing would that be? What a way to show up in a thriving mindset despite how awful this is. So I want you to list out what you're going to do in this season. What do you need to accomplish? All those growing tasks. I talk a lot about maintaining tasks versus growing tasks in your business. What are those growing tasks that you have not been able to do because you've been so busy? There's a hair attacking me, sorry. You've been so busy in your business just maintaining the edits, the emails, the bookings. What would happen if you got all of your growing tasks done? If you finally launched that big thing you wanted to launch? Crazy, right? Let's just imagine what that would feel like. Now is the time. Now you may be thinking, Katelyn, now is not the time. I have kids at home. This is not just a free-for-all. And I get it. Like, I totally get it. I have a whole list of different people that we pay to watch our kids. It's not a massive list, but there's people we can call, and literally all of them are sick right now, not with the virus, but they're just sick with other things and they can't be around our kids. And so last night at 10:30, I texted a girl from church, a college student. I'm like, is there any way you can come for like 2 hours? I got a video I need to do. I got to do some emails. I just need some help. I get it. I get it. I've got 2 kids. My sister has 2 kids, and we're both working together with Michael and Morgan to run this business. And I realize that it is hard with kids, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. There are other possibilities. Even if you just have a few hours a day where you can have some help, or you just have 2 hours of nap time, like, we can do this. We can make it happen. Once you figure out what you want to do, this is the next part. You need to be showing it every step of the process. Show what you're doing. You've got to transition your mindset from showing your work to showing your progress behind the scenes. So what I would normally do, hey, like, just shot this engagement session. Now that's going to transition to finally got 3 pages of my bridal guide updated. Take a look. And then you scroll through your screen and you show it on Insta story. Those are the things you got to let people into, because the more that you show that you're doing, the more that you are telling the world, I'm still thriving. This isn't doomsday for me. I'm still thriving. Yes, I've lost business and it's hard and it's scary. And I'm so sad for these couples. But also, you can do that in a positive way. You can talk about, hey, I was supposed to shoot so-and-so's wedding in 3 weeks, and I'm so sad that's not happening, but we've rebooked, and I'm going to start counting down the days to our new date together. I'm not losing them, and I'm so thankful. There are ways that you can show what's happening in your business without making it seem like everything's falling apart. So show what you're doing. Show your task. Everything that you accomplish, show it. Don't fall into the mindset of like, I can't do anything. My business is just shut down for 2 months. Your business is not shut down. That's a storyline that you came up with on your own. That's a storyline that people are saying in Facebook groups, but that's not the storyline we're living by. We are not saying that our business is shut down for 2 months just because I'm not shooting weddings or engagement sessions. So if you have never tried getting personal with your brand, now is the time. I have had more time in the last 4 days to watch The Voice with Michael than I have in the last several months. And so we're sitting on the couch the other night. This just goes to show personal branding works. Hands down. It just works. I post things on Instagram all the time. Work, education, kids. But 2 nights ago, I think, I posted that Michael all of a sudden out of the blue said, he was like talking to me, kind of talking to himself. He said, I don't know why, but I just think Nick Jonas is so cool. And I'm sitting over there and I'm like, okay. And I just put that text on my Insta story. I woke up the next morning with like 23 DMs about other people that are either obsessed with Nick Jonas, who have husbands who think he's cool, and we have no idea why. I have no idea why Michael thinks he's cool. I'm not the biggest fan. All these people that love The Voice and can relate to watching it with their spouse. It was a simple post. Nothing crazy. I just let people into my everyday life. And when people pick up on something that they can relate to, let me tell you another example. This is crazy. Never would have thought of this. I shared a video of Michael playing with frozen Barbies with Evie and trying to get the little tiny heels on the shoes. I don't know why they give 3-year-olds little tiny heels to put on Barbie shoes that come off. What a disaster. I shared that on Insta story, and I've had like 10 DMs from different moms saying, gotta super glue them, hot glue them, just hot glue the shoes to the Barbie's foot. If you're a mom of a 3-year-old daughter that have dolls with like shoe problems, that might be the best tip you could have received all day. I'm doing it tonight. Anyway, show your life, show who you are, show what you're working on, because if anything, if you can grow and engage with your audience during this time on social media, that's a productivity win. And you're going to walk away from this season knowing I got this project done and I connected with my audience. I didn't let my business grow stagnant. The third tip is to remember what is actually true and what am I making up. There is so much in scripture and in the Bible that talks about taking your thoughts captive. Jenny Allen is actually an incredible author that I'll have to link to this book. I haven't even read the book. I've just listened to her podcast about it, but I've heard it's incredible and it's so powerful, especially for women in business, where we just second guess ourselves constantly. And we come up with anxieties and fears of things, and you start to step back and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm freaking out about something that I'm assuming is going to happen, but it's not actually fact. I do that all the time. I operate out of fear sometimes in my own life, in my own marriage with Michael, and I realize, wait. Why am I so frustrated with him? Because I'm frustrated with him because I'm believing that by that action that he just took, I'm believing that he doesn't care about me and that he believes X, Y, and Z about me because of the way he just spoke to me. I'm believing all of these things about him because of one phrase or one tone or one thing that I felt attacked on. But what if all those things that I'm believing about him aren't actually true? I could say like, oh no, I know they're true. Look at what he said to me. But no, that doesn't prove it. In my mind, I have created all of these stories, and I'm just supporting these stories that I understand to be true by what he said. But I've never asked him if he feels X, Y, and Z about me. I'm just letting my mind get a little out of control, and I'm believing things that no one ever told me were true. And I think that happens in this COVID-19 crisis. I think we get worried. We assume that we can't rebound from this. We assume that certain things are going to happen with this virus and the spread of it, and it's going to be awful. And what if our children get sick and nobody can care for them in a hospital? And it's scary. I've been doing that, and I've had to catch myself and literally do what scripture says, take my thoughts captive. What is actually true, Katelyn? What is actually true? Did I just go down a rabbit hole and spiral into a place of fear? Or can I just rest and say, okay, in my life right now, what is actually happening? What can I say is true as of this moment? And is there any truth to the fact that I feel more responsible if I worry about every single possible outcome? And when I think about that, I have to think about me worrying about everything that could possibly go wrong. That's not being responsible. That's being controlling. And if there's anything I've learned about my life and what has happened to me in my life in the last 3 years, which if you don't know, we lost a child at 31 weeks. I had a crazy 1 in a million tumor grow out of this hand. I almost lost this chunk of my hand pregnant with my first daughter. There's a lot of things that have happened to me that I'm like my daughter had hip dysplasia. Like her hip just didn't form correctly. And she was supposed to be in a full body cast. Anyway, out of my control. If there's anything I have learned in the last 3 years of my life, is that it's not responsible to think of every bad situation and worry about it, thinking that you're being responsible and preemptively worrying about all that could go wrong. That's not responsibility. That is controlling, and it can ruin your life. And I feel like there's a lot of people in this situation in the world today where it's ruining their life. They're not taking their thoughts captive. They are crippled by fear. And it's easy for me to say, don't live in fear. And you're like, that's easy, Katelyn, to say, but how do you actually do that? This is the first step. I'll link Jenny's resource, her book, her podcast below, because it's powerful to think about how much we control in our mind. And to say that we can't control it is to say that we have no responsibility into what happens in here, and that we are powerful people. We're smart human beings. We can train our minds to show up in a healthy way, but no one teaches us how to do that. Number 4, we have to pivot our priorities. Okay. So, and this is huge because for me, I am service-based, right? I'm a wedding photographer. I know how to show up to an engagement session and make people feel like $1 million and have a great experience, create beautiful images, deliver it fast. I need to pivot in this season though, because I'm not doing that. I'm not working. I'm not shooting like I normally would be. So I am thinking in my business, what can I pivot to? And I want to encourage you to do what I'm doing. And I'm going to pivot from services to being product focused. So how can we take what we've already done and make more income off of it? How can we take the work that's already been processed and sent to our clients and make more profit off of it? Here's the truth. A lot of my brides, they have not had time in their schedule to sit down and actually work through any of their album design, any of the edits they want to make. So why not use this time to work with those brides to get those albums done? And maybe you could sit down and work on an extra email template that says, hey, if you get your album design done in the next 4 weeks during this crisis, when I have more time and you have more time, you get 50% off all the additional spreads. Or you get 40% off a parent album, duplicate parent album of your album. Or you can upgrade to this slipcase for 50% off. There's so many different options, but create a way to potentially make money off of products that you've already delivered. These photos you have already delivered, how can we make more off of them? So not only am I pivoting away from thinking about the shoots that I'm doing and thinking about how can I get my albums done, how can I sell more albums, but I'm also thinking about prints. So we use CloudSpot, and CloudSpot has this really cool feature where you can start discount codes and have like a sale that runs within your client's gallery. And so why not go into CloudSpot for me and for all the other users that use CloudSpot? Why not go in there and create a code for this season? It's not that you're trying to make money off this season. It's that you're trying to be resourceful. You don't even have to make it about this season. You could email your brides, send out an email with a code for prints and say, hey, in this downtime, if you're interested in finally selecting the images that you'd like to print for your friends and family, here's a code to make it cheaper for you. Who is going to hate that? You're allowing them to save money but also being a really smart business owner and pivoting the way that you think. Just like you're pivoting the way that you see content in your business. It's not about sharing sneak peeks and blog posts of new weddings. It's about sharing behind the scenes how you're growing your business in the midst of the chaos of this crisis. So that was number 4. This is number 5, and this is the hardest one. I'm going to say it right now. It's hard, and some people are not going to agree with it. And that is fine. Totally fine. Actually, I know people will not agree with it because saying this without being open to new possibilities in your life, it might come across as being hard to hear. It might come across as being like, oh, Katelyn, there's no way that could be possible. But let me encourage you, when you sit back and you're neutral to hear a possibility, there's a lot that could open up for you in your life. So number 5 is to choose to have a vision over victimization. Let me put a little disclaimer out there. I have been in seasons of my life where things have happened to me that no one would choose, which in my mind, I think, well, then I'm a victim to that. That happened to me. I had no choice that I could have changed that outcome. Like that happened to me. This crisis is happening to all of us. Like COVID-19 and the coronavirus, like that is happening to us. We didn't cause this to happen. So how does this happen? How do you work through this point, Katelyn? You're telling us to choose to not be a victim to it, but we are a victim to it. And you're right. We are. But is that the only thing that's possible? And could it be possible that we could look back at this season and we could say, I'm going to step back from the crazy. I'm going to step back from the negativity. And I'm going to step back and think, at the end of all of this, what do I want to be able to say? What do I want to be able to look back and see in the way that I showed up? So what I'm asking you to do is to create a vision, for how you want to show up during this crisis. And I'm telling you this because when we found out our child was dying, when I was pregnant with him, and that he would keep living inside of me, but he would not survive labor, and I would end up having a stillbirth. Our life coach is the single best decision I think we've ever made for our marriage and for our life in general, because she challenged us like, guys, this happened to you, and you can choose to be a victim to it, or you can choose to have vision. And you can decide, okay, when all this is said and done, I want to have survived this, but I can thrive in this process, even though it's heart-wrenching, even though it's traumatic, even though no one would choose this. I can have a vision for how I wanted to show up. And we created a vision. We wrote out how we wanted to survive this awful season of our life. And I know that surviving a stillbirth and comparing that to the coronavirus is very different, but it's still pain. I hate it. I hate it when people say that your pain is different than my pain. Because sure, there's different stories and there's different experiences, but pain is pain, valleys are valleys, struggles are struggles. And in this season, families losing income, not knowing how they're going to pay their mortgage, not knowing how they're going to pay their rent, not knowing how they're going to get groceries and food on the table for their children, that's painful. And sure, their children are still living, and I didn't get to keep my son, but you cannot compare those two. You can't compare those two stories. That's not fair to either one of us. So pain is pain, valleys are valleys. This is a struggle. And if I can show up, and my husband, we can show up in the pain in our story and learn that even in life's greatest losses, there can be victory and vision. I remember a woman saying this to me who had lived through this. And I agree. If someone who hadn't lived through my situation came to me and said, you just need to have a little more hope, I'd be like, you don't understand. You don't understand. You can't say that to me. But this woman came to me who had lived through it, and she said, Katelyn, believe it or not, I know you can't see it right now, and I couldn't. She said, you may be able in the future, and I hope this is true for you, that you will be able to look back on this season carrying a baby you didn't get to keep and be able to have some fond memories. And I'm like, how in the world could that be possible? I am in the most miserable season of my life. You might think that about the season of your life with this virus. Maybe you're out of work. Maybe your spouse lost a job. Maybe you're scared. Maybe you're panicked. Maybe you have, like we do in our family, we have immunocompromised people. We have people in our family with chronic illness whose immune systems have been taken down to next to nothing, and they cannot get this. It's terrifying. Maybe those situations describe where you are, and I want to offer you the possibility that maybe you will be able to look back and see that there were beautiful things in the midst of this awful season of life. What other option do you have, honestly? What other option did we have? Our option was to just sink into the victimization of our season, losing a child, just to sit there and be miserable. And gosh, some days I did choose that. And I had every right, I think, to choose to be miserable some days. But I didn't stay in the pit. I didn't stay in that dark hole. And that is what changed everything for me. And my encouragement to you in the pain of this season is to not let the pain win. Like if you don't ever choose to see something else but pain and misery, then it wins. Then the worst parts of this world win this situation. It overtakes you, it overcomes you, and there is another option. There has to be another option, or else we are all going to fall victim to the negative, painful sides of life. And that life is hard. I get it. Life is hard. And this is not going to be the last hard thing that ever happens to us. What if this, I'm getting worked up. I know I'm going long. But what if this situation, what if COVID-19, what if you could look back and you could look back at the season, you could say, you know what, before this happened, I never saw my husband. We weren't quarantined at home and we were struggling and we weren't connecting, but this forced us to talk through some hard crap that we're dealing with in our marriage. What if before this virus, that child that was acting out in school and you couldn't figure out what the heck was wrong with them just needed to connect with mom or dad, and this virus gave you the opportunity for that? What if the stress that you have felt in your business, you're so overwhelmed, you're so behind, you have so much you want to accomplish, and you can't seem to make it happen because you don't have any time, there's no margin, and this season gave you margin, and you finally overcame the scarcity victim mentality that you feel running your business that's ruining your relationships and ruining your marriage because you show up in like a victim in every part of your life, meaning I cannot watch TV with you. I have so much to do. Like, don't you see how much stress I'm under? When you live like that, and guys, I'm telling you this because I've lived it. I lived years of my life in business being a victim to it, and it hurt Michael and I. We are still recovering from how much it hurt us. What if this season set you free from that? If you choose to let it, that's the whole thing. Because all these positive outcomes could come from this season, but it's up to you to choose to have vision over victimization. And I know that's the part of this. It is so offensive to some people because some people want to believe that there is no other possibility because then that allows them to be in the dark hole forever. And if I'm telling you to fight to the top of the dark hole and see that there's beauty on the horizon, but you can't see it unless you climb out of the hole, that's hard work. The hardest work of my life was choosing to have vision despite traumatic circumstances. That's the hardest thing I've ever done. And it also created the most beautiful results. I have seen in life that the hard stuff, the uncertain stuff produces results and beauty and joy and the gift of seeing life differently. But we've got to choose to see it that way. No one can choose it for you. No one can give you a handout and make it better, even if things turn around with this whole situation. Even if things do get better and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, another hard thing's going to come. Maybe not globally, but with you personally. Something else is going to strike. Something else is going to hurt you. Something else is going to seem like it just can't get better. There's no way good can come from this. But what if you look back at the coronavirus when you were stuck at home, when you had nothing to do but think about all the bad things happening in the world, but you chose to start living your life with a different mindset? If this is resonating with you, I cannot encourage you enough to consider having a life coach. I have 2 great resources for you. I will link them below if you are interested in that. You'll see the links. There's no affiliate. There's nothing, none of that. I'm just sharing this with you because it changed my life. And I feel like I have to share it with you if I'm being a good person in this world because it's life-changing. And maybe you're not ready for that, but you're ready to just try some of this stuff out. I want to encourage you that we are doing everything we can as educators, as photographers, to figure out how to help people thrive and not just survive this season. And one way that we're doing that is for those of you who want to be productive in the midst of the craziness, but you're not ready to invest in a course. You're not ready to invest even in KJ All Access, which is only $29 a month. We are providing you with a whole episode of KJ All Access for free. So there's a link to that below. You can watch me shoot 4 hours of a wedding where I shot mostly flash. You can learn and grow from that by just enjoying the free trial of KJ All Access. I hope you love it. If you've never experienced it before, this is for you. Try it out. You're going to love it. If you are a part of the KJ Education Facebook group, I'll be doing more Facebook Lives in that group every week where I'm sharing some practical information about running your business and surviving and thriving in this season, but also some of the encouragement and the inspiration of how to show up with a different mindset and a different heart in the midst of all this. And I would love to have you join us. Subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more from me. We're going to reschedule. The plan for this week was to have a different video, but then all of this happened. And so that's why you're getting this video. But normal programming for the YouTube channel will resume next week. I hope you love this. I am thankful that you watched it. And here's to showing up with our best selves, showing up the way God always intended us to, in my mind, in my perspective. I think God has big plans for you and your business, for us in this season, despite how crazy this is. I think we have a choice to see it differently. And I hope that these 5 ways to thrive and not just survive were powerful in equipping you to do that. So thanks for tuning in. Sorry it was long. I get a little bit passionate about some of these topics and I can't help myself. So stay tuned, subscribe so you don't miss anything, and check out all the many links below that I mentioned in this episode. I will see you next time.